NTA International News.
Presidency reiterates President Buhari's commitment to fight corruption despite distractions. Army debunks insinuation of abduction of 22 women in Borno by Boko Haram. Minister of State for Health allays fears of the spread of meningitis, says government is on top of the situation. Hello, welcome to NTA International News. I'm Nancy Godi Angonihu. The presidency has given assurance that the war against corruption by the President Muhammadu Buhari administration will not stop the strong resistance of the opposition and their actions to thwart the government's efforts every day. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, in an interview said war against corruption is one of the cardinal policies of his election campaign and the main reason Nigerians voted him into office. Malam Garba admitted that so far the battle to uproot corruption from Nigeria has not been easy because it has been fighting back in various forms and guises. He dismissed rumors that members of the governing party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, were being spared, saying that all are equal before the law. He commended Nigerians for embracing the whistleblower policy by taking extraordinary risks to expose corruption. Malam Garba Shehu highlighted various efforts of the government to improve social and economic sectors of society, with particular reference to the massive cash releases for capital projects in excess of a record 1 trillion naira under the 2016 budget. Nigeria requires assistance from the United Nations to completely demine the entire Sambisa forest in Borno State. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai said this during an interactive session with journalists in Maiduguri. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has details.
The forum, a sideline to the concluded Nigerian Army Small Arms Championship in Sambisa Forest, Borno State, is aimed at highlighting progress in the fight against insurgency and the quest to completely demine Sambisa Forest, considering the magnitude of the 60,000 square kilometer landmass, difficult terrain and huge resources required to clear the former stronghold of Boko Haram terrorist group. The military, the army chief said, needs support from local and international organizations.
The civilian efforts through the UN may be required, just the way they are supporting humanitarian efforts by bringing relief to the affected IDPs.
The army, he said, will reorganize the Theta Command of Operation Lafia Dole to increase the tempo of the mop-up exercise and call for strengthening of the nation's intelligence network to enhance rapid response nationwide.
The war has been won. We need to win the peace, and it's key. And winning the peace will involve everybody. We just need to work together to expose the collaborators and indeed the perpetrators of this dastardly act.
While a series of procurement process for military equipment is ongoing, he stressed the need for other paramilitary security agencies to deploy more personnel to the northeast to relieve the military of policing responsibility and focus on the search of the remnants of Boko Haram. From Maiduguri, Borno State, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
The Nigerian army has refuted the reports of abduction of 22 women following an alleged attack by Boko Haram terrorist group in Polka, Borno State. In a statement by the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, the story trending on the social media and some mainstream media attributed to an unidentified Bulama is completely false. The statement says Polka and environs is heavily fortified by the military and there was no report of any security breach in recent time. He advised the public to ignore the report as it is intended to distract the military and communities affected by the insurgency as they mop up remnants of the insurgents. For Africa to achieve its 2024 Science, Technology and Innovations Agenda, Governments must pursue new funding alliances with the private sector for investment in human and institutional capabilities development. This is part of recommendations contained in the 2017 African Capacity Report on Science, Technology and Innovations. Chimdin Mandubisi reports.
The Africa Capacity Report Foundation carried out a study on 44 African countries to ascertain the continent's science, technology and innovations capacity dimensions as it pursues a 10-year strategy that will drive socio-economic development. The findings show that there is deficiency in funding training, researches and equipping higher institutions with state-of-the-art facilities. This results in the emergence of low-quality science graduates. The study also indicates that with 75% universities enrollment in social sciences and humanities fields, as well as few female enrollment in engineering, there is a huge shortfall in the number of needed engineers and agricultural scientists.
We produce a lot of research publications, but many of those publications don't necessarily translate into technology that can be used or things that have value for the development of the economy.
We now know in the agricultural sector what the shortfall is. In other industries, we know what the shortfalls are. And then we will now begin to tailor our training opportunities to direct people to where those opportunities lie.
The report therefore urges governments to, as a matter of priority, commit more than a percentage of their gross domestic product to science, technology and innovations, as well as create enabling environment for science research institutions to thrive. In Abuja, Chimdima Ndubisi, NTA News.
On the health scene, Nigeria is currently dealing with a new strain of meningitis, the type C. But the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, says there is no cause for alarm as the situation is under control. He also says report of shortage of vaccine is being taken care of. Dr. Ehanire was at NTA Benin Network Center where he addressed issues on the outbreak of the disease, which is prevalent in the northern part of the country. Agatha Egwaro Ojo reports.
Statistics released by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control indicates that 49 cases of meningitis have been recorded in Niger, 44 in Zamfara, 32 in Katsina and 19 in Sokoto states, while Jigawa and the FCT have also recorded 5 cases each. The federal government says it is the first time Nigeria is dealing with the type C strain and mass immunization will be carried out to curtail it, while response teams from relevant authorities have been dispatched to flashpoints.
A new strain or relatively rare strain. Up till now we have had the meningococcal serotype A. We are dealing now with type C. Unfortunately, immunity against one type does not guarantee immunity or protection against the other. So we have to do another mass immunization campaign.
On reports of shortage in vaccine, Dr. Ehanire says it is being sorted out.
2 or 3 days ago, we received a consignment of 500,000 doses, which have been distributed to affected areas. And within the next week or so, we shall get about 823,000 doses coming in from Europe. So the shortage will be a thing of the past. The reactive vaccination will start within a week.
While urging Nigerians to maintain good personal hygiene and good nutrition, he also advised Nigerians to stay away from self-medication. In Benin, Agatha Egwaroju, NTA News.
And with the recent outbreak of cerebrospinal meningitis in some parts of the country, a call has been made to take proactive measures in controlling the spread. Uche Nwizu in this report examines efforts towards the curtailment of the disease.
Meningitis causes an acute inflammation of the outer layers of the brain and the spinal cord. Its most common symptoms are fever, headache, and stiffness of the neck.
It affects all age groups. Interestingly, even newborns. When we talk about adults, we are talking about those with low immune status.
Findings show that Nigeria lies on the meningitis belt of sub-Sahara Africa, stretching from Senegal in the west and Ethiopia in the east, where outbreaks occur regularly. Overcrowding, lack of personal hygiene and environmental sanitation are also contributory factors.
The current outbreak, which was first reported in Zamfara in November last year, has since spread to Sokoto, Katsina, Niger and the FCT, with death toll hovering around 300.
But once the number of herd immunity reaches a low level, there becomes a spike, an increase, and that is what we call the epidemic, which changes from an endemic to an epidemic situation or an outbreak situation.
This outbreak is considered the worst since 2009, where over 300 lives were lost to the disease. There is fear that the disease could be out of control if refugee camps, prisons, police cells, and living quarters are affected as a result of crowding. Medical experts identify vaccination as an effective way of preventing meningitis.
Depending on the situation, the pilgrims traveling to other countries that have, for example, Saudi Arabia or the Christian pilgrimage, where a large number of people will meet, we give them vaccination using a pentavalent antigen vaccine. But for the one in country, we use a reactive vaccination program against a particular strain that has been picked, which in this case is C, and we give them a bivalent antigen of AMC.
The way forward for us to curtail or to prevent this vaccine shortage is to critically and seriously about building local vaccine manufacturing capabilities so that we can overcome this. Now, the second is that there are over 7-8 companies around the world that are making vaccines. I don't think with the problem that we have now that the government should wait for donor agencies to come and donate vaccines for them. Take a proactive measures immediately to bring in these vaccines.
A large-scale vaccination program has begun in the affected states.
You don't hear about meningitis before?
No, I never hear.
I once experienced it in my village. Why are you still staying here? No, this is where I can only afford accommodation. I used to bring out my mat in the night, I sleep outside.
Apart from public health education on the importance of immunizing persons aged 0 to 29, experts include minimizing contacts with infected persons and case reporting on the part of the public as other measures to curtail the disease. Given the magnitude of the recent outbreak, relevant agencies such as the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the World Health Organization, UNICEF and the U.S. Center for Disease Control are working together to coordinate response towards containment of the spread of the disease. Uche Mwizu, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. Stay with us as we bring you more reports after the break.
Have you been thinking about coming to Nigeria? Then what are you waiting for? Come share in our wealth of vast resources. Come discover treasure. Come to where there's lots of business opportunities. Nigeria, my nation, my pride.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated multi-talented entertainer and gospel music maestro evangelist Ebenezer Obey on his 75th birthday, April the 3rd. In a letter to the evangelist, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulated him on behalf of Nigerians, describing him as a household name in the country and beyond. President Buhari says Evangelist Obey with his music has flown the flag of Nigeria as a worthy ambassador of the motherland. The president, who described Ebenezer Obey's birthday as auspicious, prays for more years of service to the nation and humanity. Now for stories trending around the globe, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu is standing by.
Mali's opposition is taking a tentative steps toward ending its boycott of a political summit enshrined in the country's 2015 peace deal after the government extended a deadline to facilitate extra talks. The government and pro-Bamako armed groups are also represented at the event. The head of the opposition grouping, Somalia Cisse, told delegate after appearing at the talks in Bamako that inclusive consultation were required to end Mali's problems. The current conference is aimed at solidifying measures agreed by the signatories to reach a lasting peace in the conflict-prone West African nation. Still in Africa, the abducted Somali journalist Hanad Ali Guled has been freed after being tortured by his abductors. He was found tied up and alive in the agricultural town of Afgoye, 30 kilometers south of Mogadishu. No group has claimed responsibility for the journalist's abduction. A report from South Korea says 2 Filipino sailors found on a life raft were rescued after the South Korean cargo ship went missing. A search operation is continuing for the remaining 22 people. South Korea also requested assistance in a search from Brazil and Uruguay. The ship, with a capacity of 260,000 tons, was being operated by a South Korean company, but was flagged to the Marshall Islands and had 16 Filipinos and 8 South Korean on board. And in Colombia comes a report that a heavy rain flooded the city of Mocoa in the country's southwest, with mud and rocks burying whole neighborhoods and forcing residents to flee their homes. An army statement said there were at least 400 injured and 200 still missing in the capital of Putumayo province. The exact death toll is hard to confirm, with the rescue operation still underway. Some local media estimate up to 300 people have been killed, while the Colombian Red Cross has a total hovering above 200. The Red Cross said it was working to help family members contact each other. Ilyasu Aliakubu, NTA News.
And on business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says there is adequate forex for PTA, BTA, tuition and medical fees, and urges customers to approach their financial institutions for such services. Details of business news with Joy Ozo.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says it has come to its notice complaints in some quarters that some customers seeking to buy forex for business travel allowance, personal travel allowance, medical and school fees are being frustrated by some banks with the claim that the CBN is not allocating enough forex to them for BTA, PTA, tuition and medical fees. Acting Director Corporate Communications of the CBN, Isaac Okarafo, says this claim is totally untrue, as all banks have more than enough stock of forex in their possession for the purpose of meeting genuine customer demand. He reiterated that on a weekly basis, the CBN has been selling at least $80 million to banks for onward sale to their customers.
I want to state categorically that this claim is untrue and that banks have more than enough foreign exchange in their possession for sale to members of the public.
In the light of this, Mr. Karafo says members of the public seeking to buy forex for such purposes are advised to go to their banks to obtain their forex.
And I want to also appeal to members of the public and customers of banks who feel that they are not being well treated or that their demand is not being processed in time within 24 hours for BTA and PTA, and within 48 hours for medical fees and tuition fees. Once any customer feels aggrieved, they should please call this number, 0700 2255 226. 0700 2255 226. Or send an email to our contact email, which is cpd@cbn.gov.ng.
Most importantly, the Apex Bank warns that no customer should accept to buy forex from any bank at more than the currently prescribed rate of 316 naira to $1. Equities market closed Friday, March the 31st on a negative note as the NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 0.07% to close at 25,516.34 basis points as against 1.05% appreciation recorded previously. Next is a graphic summary of trades on the floor of the exchange. With business news, I am Joy Uzo.
Queen's baton relay team for the 2018 Commonwealth Games arrives Nigeria as Africa gets a spot in the expanded 2026 FIFA World Cup.